Peace, and thank you for joining us at Esoteric Daydreams, The Awakening. I'm your host, Juice Warner, right? And on this episode, as we dealing with, the revealing of esoteric knowledge. In this case would be, Freemasonry and other little subgroups that even though they might not go under the name, they're still performing the same act, right? So, in this rail, like I would like to say first, hit the like, the subscribe, and the notification bell so you could be notified whenever new content is uploaded or whenever we go live, just like now. Now, you can also, support the channel by purchasing, going to Amazon and purchasing one of my two books, which is Freemasonry and Yanni Worship, the second killing of Jesus, which is basically a condensed version of what I cover on this channel, right? And you can also check out my novel, Street Scales, They Knock 'Em Out the Box, which is, about two brothers on opposite sides of the law who must team up in order to find their father's killer or killers, right? So, in this episode, no, I was about to say hit the like, subscribe. Okay, so in this episode, I wanna, reveal the house, right? So we went into, the plot or how they do it, the magic, the mysticism written within the context of the writing, right? And we'll get more into that. Now, then, we looked into, deceptive prophecies and, hold on, let me do a quick recap here, right? So, no, we covered Danan, which is the Irish, goddess who's, this constructing goddess with her three offspring, we'll call the ruffians, right? And so we understand, the structure, the religious structure that's being, well, we don't understand the totality, but we know what they're building, right? Then we went into the British, Empire, the ones who's constructing this, who is being constructed for, and how, they take it back to Ireland and, the bloodlines and these type of things, right? So then we went into how, they affiliate themselves biblically, right, with the Bible, how they associate themselves with the Bible, through deceptor, and star prophecy. So we went through, the scriptures of those and how this was, right? Now, mind you, this is all in context to King Zedekiah, right? So then we went into these scriptures and how out of, Jacob, these rulers, would come. So then, we went into the dates and how, they coincide with the date of Tammuz, which is, the religious month, the religious month, originally, the revolutionary month would be June, July. So if you ever looked on a global calendar and you looked into, just type in, holidays, June, July, and you would see all of these holidays and how they all coincide with, celebrating their independence and revolution in these time frames, right? So I might do a whole different thing on that one day, but it's just something that you could just look into, simple research, right? But that's important because once you understand the structure of these calendars, you understand why, the masking of it while they're doing what they're doing. Right. So, we also covered the Mormons. And so we went into Zadika's, the bloodline through, the feminine factors. So with that, we're gonna enter in to, right, the house of Windsor, right? We're gonna look into this house of Windsor. We're gonna understand, you know, um, who's in control. So now we're going into who's in control of this, right? And how do we know that it's a feminine movement, right? So like I explained to you, the cross and the crown is the representation of intercourse, right? So that's the male and the female, right? So then it goes, the House of Windsor is a British royal house and currently the reigning house of the United Kingdom. The reigning house, keep that in mind. And other Commonwealth realms. So basically, this house is in control of that. The royal house name was inspired by the historical Windsor Castle estate. Since it was founded in 1917, there has been 5 British monarchs of the House of Windsor: George V, Edward VIII, George IX, Elizabeth II, and Charles III. We know the last two, right? The children in the male line descents of Queen Elizabeth. Of who? Queen Elizabeth. So this is coming from her bloodline. And Prince Philip also genealogically belonged to the house of Oldenburg, right? Now remember, when we went into the houses, right, this is the German house. So keep in mind, because this plays a major part in World War One as well as World War Two, right? This is the type of things that will explain why, this had taken place, right? Since Philip was birthed a member in the Gothenburg branch of that house, right? So remember, so Prince Philip, Philip, he was actually of the German side, right? And so, you basically rubbing out, his inheritance, right? So the monarch is head of the state of 15 sovereign states. These are the United Kingdoms, Antigua and Barbados, Australia, the Bahamas, Belize, Canada, Grenada, Jamaica, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, St. Kitts and St. Neves, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines, right? Solomon Islands and Tuvalu, as well as these separate monarchs. There are also 3 crown dependents, 14 British overseas territories, 2 associated states of New Zealand, and 1 territory. Now remember, so a lot of these are just satellite, quote unquote, puppet states. They're just, even though they go under their own name, they're really, a part of this system, right? So then it goes in 1701. Remember, Freemasonry in its present form was founded in 1717, right? In 1701, the succession of the throne was given to Sophia of Hanover. Sophia, we covered the sophist, right? Who was born into the house of Wettenbach, married into the house of Hanover, and was a granddaughter of who? King James the Fifth and First from the House of Stuarts. Now I told you, you know, King James just basically being, the demon's seed, right? So this is, from his house, right? Succession was passed to her son, and who became George the First in 1714, making the state of a long ruling period by the Hanegavan royal house. Eventually, in 1901, a line of the House of Saxon Cogburg and Gothia succeeded, right, the House of Hanover to the British monarchy with the accession of King Edward VII, son of who? Queen Victoria and Prince Albert of Saxon Cogburg and Gothia. Right. So again, we see this German. So when we hear, the German saying the Third Reich, understand what they are referencing to, right? Because as they was constructing this, right, they was supposed to, the Germans felt like they were the ones who was supposed to land the the house, should we say, right? So in 1917, the name of the British Royal House was changed from what? The German Saxon Coburg and Gothia to the English Windsor, taking its name from the royal residence in Berkshire, So now you see how they shifted the house. It was a German house, right? Now, we're going to cover something with World War II real quick. I mean, World War One, right? June 29th, 1914, Akendika Franz Ferdinand of Austria and his wife, who, Sophie, was assassinated at the Bosnian Serb nationalists in Sarajevo, right? July 28th, 2019, World War One begins when Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia, right? August 1st through the 29th, 1914, Germany declares war on Russia. France, Belgium, Britain declares war on Germany, right? Now, see how it says Britain declares wars on Germany, right? September 6, 1914, World War One, right? November 5th, 1419, British and France declare war on the Ottoman Empire. April 22nd, 1915, the Second Battle of Ypres begins, right? And so we have these other dates, but keep, as you can link, the families and see how, they were divided, right? So then it goes King Edward VII, and in turn his son George V were members of the Saxon Coburg and Gothia branch of the House of Wettin by virtue of their descent from Albert. So you see how this was, from the male line. Prince consort husband of Queen Victoria and last British monarch from the House of Hanover. High what? Anti-German Semitism amongst the people of the British Empire during the First World War reached a peak in March 19th when the Gotha G5, a heavy aircraft capable of crossing the English Channel, began bombing London directly and became a household name. In the same year, on the 15th of March, King Gregory's first cousin, Emperor Nicholas II of Russia, was forced to abdicate, right? Which raised a spectra of the eventual abolishing of all monarchies in Europe. See, this was, basically it. Because, when the French was basically, the start of that, right? Abandon all the monarchs. Okay, the king and his family were finally persuaded to abandon all titles held under the German crown and to change German titles and house names to Anglistic versions. Hence, on the 17th of July, 1917, a royal proclamation issued by George V declared, "Now, therefore, we are out of a royal will and authority, do hereby declare and announce that as from the date of our royal proclamation, our house and family shall be styled and known as the house and family of Windsor, and that all the descendants in the male line and said grandmother Queen Victoria, who are subjects of these realms, other than female descents who may marry or may have married, shall bear the said name of Windsor." And as we know, in Freemasonry, the male and the female, if she's married, and these type of things. So we should see what you are actually coming under, right? So the name had a long association with the monarchy of Britain, though the town of Windsor, Berkshire, and Windsor Castle, the link is alluded to the round tower of Windsor Castle being the basis of the bridge of the House of Windsor. It was suggested that Arthur Bigg, first Baron, stand for him, upon hearing that his cousin had changed the name of the British royal house to Windsor, and in reference to I already covered Shakespeare, but we'll get more into him, right? Shakespeare's To Marry Wives, the Merry Wives of Windsor. German Emperor Wilhelm II remarked jokingly that he planned to see the Merry Wives of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. So you see what he declared. He's like, nah, you know what I'm saying? We hear what y'all saying, but we're basically, we're not gonna be happy until we have our own. So this is where, you'll see that Third Reich coming in, right? George V also restricted the House of British Princes titles in his nearest relation, and in 1919 had stripped three of the German relations of their British titles and styled under their title Deprivation Act 1917. So again, we see, this is the outside. We're going to go into, more hidden information, but this is what, the public should be aware of and why things are happening, because they could see it, taking place in real time now, right? It goes, so the children and male line descendants of Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip also genealogically belong to the House of Ottenberg, since Philip was by birth a member of the Glockenberg branch of that house. So you see, they basically violated. And the 1917 proclamation stated that the name of the royal house and all British descendants of Victoria in Albert, see how they put Victoria first, and the male lines were to bear the name of Windsor, except for the women who married into other families. So they lose, the Windsor, right? So, and in 1947, Princess Elizabeth, who would become Queen Elizabeth II, heir presumptive by King George VI, married Philip Mountbatten, born Prince Philip of Greece and Denmark, a member of the House of Schwarzenhausen. Gothenburg, right? A branch of the House of Ottenberg. A few months before his marriage, Philip abandoned his princely title and adopted the surname Mountbatten, right, which was that of his maternal uncle and mentor, and Earl Mountbatten of Burma, and had itself been adopted by Lord Batten, Father Philip, maternal grandfather Prince Louis of Battenberg in 1917. It was a literal translation of the German Battenberg, which refers to Battenberg, a small town in Hesse. So you see how they build their houses basically through the towns, right? Soon after Elizabeth became queen in 1952, Lord Mountbatten observed that because it was a standard practice for the wives in marriage to adopt their husband's surname, the House of Mountbatten now reigned. When Elizabeth's grandmother, Queen Mary, heard this comment, she informed British Prince Minister Winston Churchill, and he later advised the Queen to issue a royal proclamation declaring that the royal house was to remain known as the House of Windsor. This she did in 9 April 1952, officially declaring it her will and pleasure that I and my children shall be styled and known as the house and family of Windsor, and that my descendants, other than female descendants who marry and their descendants, shall bear the name of Windsor. Philip privately proclaimed, I am nothing but a bloody ambia. I am the only man in the country not allowed to give his name to his own children. Right? So you see how the robbery was taking place, right? So on the 8th of February 1960, some year after both death of Queen Mary and the resignation of Churchill, the Queen confirmed that she and her children would continue to be known as the House and Family of Windsor, as would any agnic descendant through the male line of succession and paternities, right? Who enjoyed the style of royal highnessness, right? And the title of prince or princess. Still, Elizabeth also decreed that her agnet descendant who do not have the style and title would bear the surname Mountbatten Windsor. This came after some month of correspondence between Prince Minister Harold Macmillan and the constitutional expert Edward Louis. Louis had raised the prospect that the royal children due to being born in February, right? See how we got the month there. 1960 would bear the badge of bastardry if it were given its mother's maiden name, Windsor, rather than the father's name, Mountbatten. So you see how they switched it over to, the feminine side, even the women, giving the women a name, making this the practice. So when people say, this is how it was, no, that's the chicanery. This is the truth. This is, what took place, right? So Macmillan had attempted to rebuff Louis until the Queen advised Rab Butler in January 1960 that sometimes she had her heart set on change that would recognize the name Mountbatten. She wished to make the change before the birth of her children. The issue did not affect Prince Charles or Prince Anne, as they had been born Mountbatten before Queen's accession to the throne, right? So you see how these names go. Prince Andrew was born 11 days later on 1914, 1460. So she probably did that to get at him. Any further monarch can change the dynastic name through a similar royal proclamation as the royal progressives in the United Kingdoms cover it. So it's not like you would have to always stay there, but if they family stay, you know how it go, right? Okay. So that covers that, right? The next one is gonna be short. It's only like a few slides, right? So in this we see who's calling the shots, right? The Wood House is calling the shots right now. The House of Windsor. We see what they did by changing the name, from male to female. These are all of the things that's been happening over time. So when was it George Bush, I think it was Senior, saying that we're in a new world order, right? You understand, you look at the events that was taking place and you would see, what sealed the deal. All right. This is esoteric daydreams, the awakening. Because a lot of people, they think just because they know some parts of the nightmare, meaning the Abrahamic religions. I'm gonna call those the nightmares, right? They don't realize that the daydream is way worse than the nightmare. You know what I'm saying? They don't realize what's going on and what's taking place because they woke to the nightmare, but they still daydreaming. Don't forget to hit the like, the subscribe, and the notification bell so you can be notified whenever new content is uploaded or whenever we go live. Peace. Oh, don't forget, check out Street Skelzy, knock 'em out the box. It's about two brothers on opposite sides of the law who must team up in order to find their father's killers or killers. Pernell Purple is a prominent father and business owner who was found dead on the side of a road, right, with no clues as to why he was killed, leaving his two sons, Skelzy and Andrew, to team up right along with Andrew's detective partner Ortiz to hunt down and find out who is the ones who killed it, and trying to get to it before the detectives on the case either botch it or get to them before they can distribute their own forms of justice. Peace.